Arriba! Oops. Just trying to figure out why this isn't going to my personal Facebook feed. So once I figure out how to share, I'll be able to focus. In the meantime, welcome to my broadcast. Sorry about last week. Something came up that I could not ignore. Sometimes things are just way more important than a broadcast you do for free, and always will be. So yeah, I am unfortunately Mike won't be able to make it this week. Last week was his window. He has something he has to do tonight, but yeah, so I'm kind of disappointed, but it is what it is. Let's see if this works. Paste. All right. So yeah, Mike won't be joining us. It's going to be me, myself, and I, the three of us. Tonight I'm drinking McCafe, straight up, black, nothing added. Tonight's episode's a little contentious at some point, so it's a bad one to have loose lips for, so I need my wits about me because I was threatened to be sued over this episode. It's only the second time in Come Drive With Us history that I had some kind of manufacturer drama. And, I appreciate their position in this case. I absolutely do, because sales are involved. But regardless, I'll get into that a little bit more. I was also yelled at, not by IFMAR this time, because this was actually the first episode without Dallas, who is... Dallas loved me. We got along great, but he just, I frustrated him sometimes. But no, I was yelled at by other people, and then I yelled at some people myself. I actually blackmailed somebody to get on the driver's stand for the winning moment. That was pretty awesome. Get into all that in this episode. So yeah, this was actually a pretty fun trip. Gonna just go through some photos here. So this is my kit. When I go to a race, this is my typical travel when it's an international event. So the Pelican is my carry-on, and in there I have my A camera and my drone, and just basically everything the bare minimum to actually do the production. And then in the Ogio is, my clothes and some other stuff. I think my tripod was in there, and I think my B camera was in there. So yeah, lots of goodies in the Ogio. Here's a good one of Lerone in his face mask. We'll get into more as to why he's wearing that. This is an action shot. I believe this was from Neo Buggy Phil. So yes, I sacrifice myself to get the shot all the time. So that's kind of fun. And most people don't really know this, but I bury a loonie in the track. Sorry, a loonie is our $1 coin. I did that in Italy. I did that in China. This one here was the first time I buried a $2 Canadian coin, in hopes that it would somehow give Ty Tessman some good luck. Kind of worked out, kind of didn't. We'll get more into that later. And I also, another interesting tidbit was I totally ruined my rental car at this race. I was avoiding something on the road and ended up bailing on the curb. So yeah, it took me basically 5 days to get that fixed. And then in the meantime, I was bumming rides off people, and we'll get into that in the episode. This is a really exhausting shoot. So here's a fun shot from somebody, and from left to right, that's Neo Buggy Phil, Oseen O'Brien from Red RC, Matt McKellum from HPI as well as RCGP, and then the white-haired guy that looks like, well, the other Hobbit is it's Owen O'Brien of Red RC also. This is a cool picture taken by Marcus Dirks, I believe, of me doing one of the closing interviews. And I really hate wearing PPE, so I figured, okay, the Edmonton Oilers colors are kind of orange. There's no way that they'll make me wear PPE, but apparently my orange wasn't bright enough. I still had to wear PPE. So my plan failed. There's a shot from Owen. And then here's a droney. This is the week after. And yeah, I can't remember where this was. It was south of Perth. It was pretty cool. And then this is basically what kept me going the whole week. These double espresso thingies. They are so good. Love those. I miss those. If somebody could mail me some of those, I would love you a long time. So yeah, that's kind of my intro. Let me see what's going on with my chat. It doesn't seem to be connecting today. Anyways. I think everything's going okay here. I'm not sure. There we go. All right, so I'm going to get right into the episode. Again, this is the 2018 IFMAR Worlds held in Perth, Australia. It's a pretty awesome episode, so I hope you guys enjoy it. And I'm going to just try to play this. I dedicated this one to Brian, who passed away shortly after I released it. And with most Worlds episodes, I started this one out with kind of like a review of what had happened since the last Worlds.
The last Worlds held at the now.
So it just made sense to start this one out with David's win in Vegas. And here we've got a shot of David autographing a body. It's pretty cool. The question was, will David repeat? Because there haven't been a lot of repeat champs in this sport.
Never having a chance at fighting for a repeat win. Would the same hold true for David?
So 2017 was a pretty big year for a lot of drivers. So Tessman, this was his first year with X-Ray, and it was also Mayfield's first year with Mugen. And it was kind of an interesting parallel to watch the two of them, start out their new rides. With Tessman, he ran most of 2016 with no driver contract whatsoever. So a shift for them a change for them was absolutely coming. Ryan was sort of a surprise, and it was kind of cool to see him land at Mugen.
Even though Ryan Mayfield looked very comfortable in his new ride, Ty would be top qualifier. In the main, however, Ryan would score a trifecta of wins.
Yeah, so Ty he did really good in qualifying, but in the mains he just kind of fell apart for some reason. Yeah, it was kind of sad to see, sort of, for me, because I'm a personal friend of the Tessmans. But I mean, Mayfield, he destroyed. Like, I think this is his first trifecta. That was e-buggy, nitro truggy, and nitro buggy. Absolutely love that shot. That's like one of my favorite Come Drive With Us shots ever. Thank you so much, Joey, for letting me put a GoPro on that bottle. That was awesome.
Bit of a run. I mean, it's a shame it's not a Worlds year, but
yeah. So for Ryan, it would have been interesting to see what would have happened if it was a Worlds year, because he was just on fire. Like, this guy's he's defying age, he's defying everything, because he's like 34, 35. He should be slowing down, but he's getting faster. It's crazy.
Switching chassis tends to involve a learning curve of sorts. As a result,
so this was an experiment with a program called Twixtor. I'm getting into some techno babble here. It basically takes a regular speed shot and it'll make it into slow motion. It was kind of a neat experiment. It worked out a little better on that truggy shot than the buggy. The buggy, would fly and then stop, fly and stop, but it's kind of cool. So it's a little bit of inside knowledge as to some of the tools I use. This game's called Twixtor.
I don't think he should place too much weight on that. It's still very early days with his, I guess, new era career with X-Ray.
So yeah, Tessman had a really disappointing DNC, and that's the Anaheim one, or like the start of the season, and it builds so much momentum. But by the time they had the Roar Nationals that year, he was on. He was doing really, really good. He ended up having some troubles in buggy. I think it was a receiver pack failure or a battery failure, but in Truggy it was lights out. He did really, really good. And then his next event was Sick Cross, and this was going to be a really big test because Ryan Mayfield is amazing on bumpy tracks. We all knew this was going to blow right out. So it was a really strong test for Ty to see how he does on rough tracks. And they came to this race with a whole new shock package, and they proved that they could compete on the bumpy tracks, which is pretty cool. And even though this is a super small race, we had both Ryan Mayfield and Ty Tessman, who I think were at the absolute top of their careers in 2017, battling hard. It was really awesome to see those two go at it. Mayfield ended up having bad luck because, the format is kind of like, AAA mains are cool, but it was just kind of like, it was a novelty format, and I don't know if it was really a fair gauge as to who was truly faster, because I don't even think Mayfield podiumed that time.
Change my line if I had to, not just do the same thing.
But it was good to see Tessman do well on a bumpy track, because we kind of had a hunch that Australia might blow out just a little bit.
Teams head to Southern California for DNC prep.
So this is now 2018 over at Thunder Alley. So I usually went to DNC as a participant. I think I was racing it this year. I was running Mugen that year, and I usually went to practice at Thunder Alley with the guys. And then while I was practicing, I was always pull out the camera and get some B-roll going.
We wouldn't find out until very late in the year, but this would be the last Nitro Challenge held at the Fear Farm. This would mark the end of an era, as the race would be moving out of Arizona. Tessman, who found early success at this event in years past, has had a string of bad luck as of late. He has gone winless in the last 3. Adversely, Ryan Mayfield has enjoyed unprecedented success in that same time period.
So yeah, this was another pretty good run from Mayfield, if I recall. Or was this Rona Folks here? Can't remember who won this one.
Ty once again earns TQ.
But this was, I believe this was the last one at the Fear Farm. So it's kind of like sort of sad-ish, because for me, Fear Farm really epitomized Nitro Challenge.
CJ Jellin, whom the Tessmans took under their wings back in the HB days, is here as a professional driver for the first time.
Yeah, and this was his swan song with X-Ray. This is actually a really neat shot. This was at the Worlds warm-up in 2016. It was kind of Gord saying to CJ that he's going to be pretty significant in the industry if he just keeps it up, and that he can't get him too impatient and kind of rush himself too much. So we all know how this relationship went, unfortunately.
CJ has qualified into the B main and is in a bump-up position.
Doing good. He's making 10 minutes on a tank, so he'll have one less stop. He just has to settle in, and he should get a bump pretty easy, but we'll see what happens.
He's in a tight battle with Cole Ogden, Dakota Fend, and Ryan Lutz. CJ, at only 14 years old, will have to drive beyond his years to compete with this group of seasoned veterans. But with only 2 minutes to go, he is on the outside looking in. Kevin gives words of encouragement over the wireless.
Quit doing that. Quit doing that. Drive. Go forward. Stop. Just, yeah.
You ever want to throw that radio headset at him?
No, because then I'll get in a lot of trouble and it won't turn out good.
Hey, you were faster than all work.
CJ and Kevin just cracked me up.
Regardless of his finish, the X-Ray team gives their newest...
So it was cool to see, like, everybody kind of... The X-Ray team, like, there was a lot of bad press when CJ left, but, I mean, I didn't see any toxicity on the team. I thought it was pretty... I thought they were a pretty good team. Like, they worked really good together, I thought.
Any DNC is a challenge all unto itself.
But what do I know? I'm just the camera guy, right? So yeah, that track was pretty challenging. They had like this washboard section that was just brutal.
Tessman would again start the pro buggy in the front with his friend Daniel Adams watching quietly from the pro line truck.
No, I get excited for him. I get bummed out when it doesn't go well. But this is going better than trucking so far. We'll see what happens.
There's Daniel Adams, who's no longer the pro line team manager. He's now in the tool room. In case you guys missed my little video I did with him a couple weeks ago, it explains where he's headed with pro line.
Ronafalk, who started fourth.
Right. This was the battle with Tessman and Ronafalk. It was pretty heated for a long time. They were going back and forth. I still think that Ronafalk just kind of had a little bit of a tire edge on that surface. He just seemed to have just that little bit more grip and a little bit more corner speed. But even still, you know, Ty gave him a pretty good fight, and they were going back and forth.
The battle goes back and forth for 3/4 of the race. With 10 laps to go, David makes the final surge to secure the win.
I can't remember if this was his first DNC win or if it was his second. I know he's come close a couple times. In 14, he was super dominant, and he had some technical issues. I think he ripped a fuel line, if I recall. But David's he's pretty good. He's pretty good on that on those bumpy tracks.
The first ever indoor Silver State race.
And then just a few weeks later, a month later, was Silver State, which Ty won, and then the Florida Roar Nationals. Ty was pretty dominant, but I've said before, if it's a smooth track and high grip, just give the trophy to Ty.
Across the pond in Portugal, with just 3 months before the Worlds, the top European drivers would crown.
So I've always wanted to do a Euros. Just never really worked out, unfortunately. I've never been able to convince anybody to send me over there. Davide was poised to win, like he was kind of the favorite, but he's accepting the second place trophy here.
But it wasn't enough.
First place was Bruno. This is a really surprising win. He had some help in the pits though. So Ty and Gord, they volunteered to just go over just to be Bruno's pit guys. And I don't know if that's obviously he had to drive to win, but it certainly helps having those two as your pit team. So I thought that was pretty cool because they didn't go to race. Obviously, it's the Euros. They went purely to be pit guys.
With barely 3 months to go before the Worlds, this was the perfect time for a win. In a sport of confidence, every win and every loss this close to the Worlds is always felt. At Revelation Raceway for one of the last legs of the JBRL series.
Yeah, so the JBRL series was also held right before. Dakota was on the, I think this is maiden race for the 8X, and he did pretty good, but he broke, and it was kind of a bad time to lose his mojo. And this is one of the few shots of me. So my travel experience wasn't awesome. I mean, it's a 44-hour trip, so that's never fun. And actually, I think 44 hours was, I think there's some that were higher. I think Joe Bornhorst was like 48 hours or something. I can't remember how long, but it was just crazy. There was a lot of flies. You can see them just kind of twitching and going all crazy. It's because of the flies. I love that shot. And that's that shot. Yuchi and I, we do it every single Worlds, except maybe for Brazil, because I don't have any desire to go to Brazil. I don't even know if Brazil's happening, so that shot might have to wait for a bit. Yuchi. So even though the travel was 44 hours, basically I got unpacked, had a shower, and headed to the track. And I did some scoping out of the track, and then this guy said that they're going karting. So I ended up tagging along, getting some B-roll footage of the karting fun.
By now, most of these drivers have already been here in Perth for 5 days. They all needed a break from the monotony of meaningless practice at the RC track.
Here's
Chris,
Chris.
who's the race director.
We're doing a ride along with him, and
Karting.
he stuffed it on the first corner.
It's 1 foot on the brake and 1 on the gas, not both on the brake.
He figured it out, though. He figured it out.
By the second round of qualifiers, Chris finally has the hang of it. Not to the level of Kyosho's top driver Jared Tebow or team manager Zach Rogers.
I don't know. I call Zach the winner. He beat me on fast lap.
So apparently, Jared and Zach were cheating because they were there the whole day, practicing and stuff.
Should be good. Hopefully less bumping though. That was a lot of bumping out there.
So I had a new drone. I had the DJI Mavic 2 Pro for this one, and I was pretty impressed with it. This was a low light shot, which with my Autel drone would have been all grainy and crappy, but it was really, really, really good with the Mavic. I was super impressed.
Tessman, now settled into his new X-Ray chassis, will be tough to beat. Mayfield, just coming off doubling up at the 10-scale Worlds, is hungry and full of confidence. Or would David Ronafalk be the first double 8-scale IFMAR champion since Maurizio Manesi?
Yeah, Maurizio Manesi, that's the last guy to double up to get 2 Nitro Worlds. So it's no easy feat.
That it was to win the first one, that's what like everybody say, and that you can pretty much see that on the history as well. Only one driver made 2. But yeah, I'm confident. My package is working good, so it's gonna be fun.
Both drivers and the mechanics will have to be completely in tune with the track that is bound to change by the hour.
And then we'll go straight from here to South Africa. Back to back.
Or Brazil.
Is it South Africa?
No, it's not South Africa, Joe. It's Brazil.
Pretty sure it's South Africa.
It's not. It's Brazil.
What do you think about the track character?
I think the flies are more character than the track.
Do the flies are more character? Track doesn't have much character.
Fly has 3 distinct
So yeah, the flies were just horrible.
a thorax
They were so
and
bad.
abdomen.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
I'm really tired. I think I ate like 12 flies.
Yeah, so this is Larone's mask for flies. It was pretty cool. Yeah, so it's my boy Leroy back there. Yeah, it was disappointing that so many interviews were just ruined by all those flies. But what can you do? It's and they were the worst. They didn't bite you. They just licked your eyeballs or licked your mouth or crawled into your nose and licked your snot. It was just brutal. It just cracks me up. Stupid flies everywhere. Flies. When it was windy, it wasn't so bad. In the middle of the day, they kind of went away. But mornings and evenings, it was horrible. The worst thing ever.
Seating practice is about to begin.
So as with all IFMARs, lots of practice.
Drivers.
What was really nice about this Worlds was everybody was under the same tent, so it was easy to find everybody. Some Worlds, I think like China, we were kind of all over the place, sort of. China had that really long pit lane, so we were all under there. But Vegas, we were sort of spread out, kind of all over the place, which isn't awesome. But I liked that everybody was together.
So yeah, it's always really good when I come in. I don't think we've even ever had an 8-scale Worlds here in Australia. So to be in my home country, yeah, it feels pretty awesome, not gonna lie.
As the random order of the seating progresses,
Black wheels
begin to
for the win.
sporadically see a few more
It's the only reason that guy got into this cut is because he was running black wheels.
While the track isn't bumpy, it is a very fast track. Speed is usually
So it was a
synonymous
super
with
fast
bad
track.
crashes.
Like you needed some horsepower on this track, and it was not an easy track because it was deeper than it was wide. So it was a weird shape. It was a really weird shape. Oh, and that shot there, I saved Elliott Boots' life. Well, his buggy's life, because I actually got pasted in the back by Micah Thompson. Had a big welt there, yes, but still got the shot. So that's what counts, right? Because if I wasn't there, Micah probably would have jumped right onto that step up, and he probably would have interfered with Boots' seating practice round.
We're going forward, not backward.
The internet will obviously have a boisterous opinion on this topic, but the question does need to be asked. Should the drivers that do this as a day job be in the same heat as the drivers that do this as a hobby.
Yeah, so the reason we mentioned that was because Boots was getting, like, he was just he was in a really bad heat. It was a really bad heat. Like, I'm not making excuses for him, and it's up to him to get around people. But, you know, again, why are the pros, the guys that do this for a living, in a seating round with Joes? It just, to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Constantly. I mean, their race is no fun either. So I don't understand why we can't take the Euros, the Nationals in North America, the last year's Worlds, and make some kind of sort before we even start. That way, it's going to be a better event for everyone, in my opinion.
Even though today is technically practice, there is a lot at stake for people who use this sport to pay their bills. Elliott Boots, as well as past 10-scale world champion Ryan Cavallari, would encounter traffic problems in their first seeding rounds.
I mean, my heat is worse than a club race at home.
We can't wait to get in a nice heat.
Well, they're having a drivers' meeting tonight and a managers' meeting, team managers' meeting, because I think what I heard was that they might change the heats from today's seeding because of like the situation I'm having and a few other guys, where it's just a massive difference between the skill of drivers.
Yeah, and like Gord was saying, it can't be super fun for the guys that are constantly getting out of the way. But yeah, one of the comments is more fun for the fans if they are mixed up. That's for sure. It's true, you know, and it gives me something to tell as a story. But yeah, that's a new feature on my aerial drones. Was the hyperlapse. I love doing those. More on that later.
Depending on what heat you're in, so.
The watering is stupid.
It was really wet. It was wet.
Yeah, and again, as with the Vegas Worlds, water came into play because it drastically changed the speed of the track.
Which helped a little bit for sure. I would say the track is a little bit slower the first 3 minutes when they water.
Even though several of the top drivers will be qualifying in slower heats or on a drenched track, the vibe in the pits is generally very positive.
It's very fun to drive on it for sure. I think it's going to be good for racing. Right now it doesn't really have that much of a character, no bumps so far. I think it will stay pretty much the same to this. I mean, we
character.
have still, like,
Joe Bornhorst's favorite expression.
The track's holding up well, and I don't see it like blow out that much like we saw in Vegas, for example.
Yeah, that's true. Like, it got bumpy in a few spots, but it did not blow out like Vegas. I don't think we'll ever see that again.
Back to the house and having to work on homework, but yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, so CJ, I think he was 13-ish at this race, so yeah, homework was definitely something he had to bring along because Worlds are kind of a 7 to 10 day affair for us.
It's been good.
You know, 2 days travel there and then 1 day travel back because of the time zone changes. So yeah, he definitely had to bring homework.
Yeah, fun.
Throughout seeding practice, Jellin has been having phantom engine flameouts.
Yeah, and this was something that plagued him for a while. He was running a Samurai, which is an OS-based engine. I've run those in the past. They're really good engines, so it wasn't anything like with the design of the engine or anything. It was just he was flaming out constantly. Yeah, so Darren Johnson is saying it didn't blow up because they watered. Absolutely, you know, that's completely true. Had they let it run dry, it probably would have disintegrated. But you know, these drivers, if they feel that they're at any kind of a disadvantage, they'll make some drama out of it, right?
Going fast for 10 minutes on a wet or a dry track, with or without traffic.
It doesn't matter who they are, they're going to be there. Once the clock hits is when you're going to see the game change.
The first race I ever watched was out here.
So as I mentioned, I completely destroyed my rental car. 2 flat tires, and customer service and Australia are not synonymous. I'm sorry. Sorry, Australians. Your customer service sucks. So, yeah, I popped the tires on Saturday, got no roadside assistance, basically just drove it as is back to where I was staying. And, holy crap. Anyways, what was I talking about? Oh, yeah. So I popped my tires on Saturday, didn't get them fixed till Friday. So I was bumming rides every morning with Chris, and it was pretty awesome. Eagles fan, yes, he does eventually find out why it was flaming out. We'll get into that in about 20 minutes.
Finally time to do something.
So now we're transitioning from seeding practice into qualifying. Aaron Friend is agreeing with me. It's bad, right? Customer service, it's just terrible. And then I got my rental car stuck because I was looking down trying to navigate, and I was at a beach, and I got it stuck, and I was 8 feet too far into the sand for them to send out roadside. So yeah, that was awesome.
IFMAR 1/8 Nitro Off-Road World Championships from right here at the...
So I think Chris was both the RD as well as the voice for the FRS Front Row Screens broadcast. And more about Front Row Screens later. Assholes.
The same heat. Davide starts out right where he left off.
So Davide was he had a pretty strong seeding run.
This first heat was on a very wet track.
But he did get kind of a wet track. So it was a tick slower.
On lap 7 would drop the young
but it doesn't make him make the mistake he did, and that's ultimately what cost him more than any disadvantage the water might have given him. But Mayfield was pretty much on. He was pretty much on, and then so was Tessman.
On the most important lap of the heat race, the last one.
I had a little bobble and then had to avoid a car, but I drove clean and I thought it was going to be pretty fast, but then the track after was quite a bit better, and we went top 4 guys went faster, so seeing how much different the track was, I think 5th is pretty good still, so if we get a dry track next run, hopefully we can have a better run.
So as with all worlds, there are 3 qualifying days, and the drivers hit the track twice, 10 minutes each time. So they run for a grand total of 20 minutes the whole day, each day.
Was getting frustrated by being held up as he was.
So this was interesting. So Bruno was ahead of Cavalieri time-wise, but behind him on the track, and he was getting really frustrated. And I think that frustration basically ended there. Cav got Bruno'd.
For him to recover.
But, you know, the damage was done to Bruno's run and ultimately to Cavalieri. So in a situation like that at these races, they both end up losing out.
Capitalize on the dry track. David Ronafalk did exactly that.
So David had a pretty dry track, and I think he was he had a pretty solid run. I don't think he was TQ. I think Ty held on to TQ, but I could be wrong.
Tried to play it safe. Had a couple of laps where I was on the limit, but I was able to keep the car on the wheels, which is the most important in a 10-minute qualifier. So yeah, super pumped to take the TQ in the first one. It's always a good start to have a TQ, and we'll see what happens in the afternoon.
Yeah, so David was TQ in round 1. I guess Ty was P2 or P3. I'm not sure.
On the wet track, would he minimize the damage like Tessman and Mayfield did?
Yeah, so when you have a dry track, wet track situation, the trick is to minimize the damage on the wet and just don't squander the opportunities on the dry. So David got TQ on the dry, and so he was up on the wet next, and Mayfield and Tessman and Ongaro were all up on the dry track for the second round of day 1 of qualifying.
For everybody, but it seems like as long as you're putting the right tire on for the right condition, then the speed doesn't really change. You just got to make sure you're picking the right stuff. So,
with the complexity of the varying track conditions and the fact that drivers will only be on the track twice per day, teamwork is more important at an IFMAR event than any other in this sport.
If you can get everybody working together and trying different stuff and being open, I think it's really helpful that we have people to do that. Kind of a lot of my career up until now has been kind of by myself, so it's been hard, but now to have a team is really nice to fall back on.
The second round starts out with a bit of cloud cover. This time the water schedule would be flipped. It would be important for the Tessman heat to capitalize on the dry and the Ronafalk heat to minimize the damage on the wet.
Yeah, exactly what I just said.
David came on strong.
So yeah, David started out pretty good, but again, he struggled in the first 3 heats, first 3 minutes, and if you're already behind the 8 ball, it's tough. And then I think, if I recall, he pushed a little too hard once the track dried up, and he made a couple mistakes.
Ongaro was out front and driving the.
And this is over on the dry heat, but Davide literally drove the wheels off his car. I think he probably would have TQ'd that round had that not happened, but you know, sometimes races are won and lost like that. And then Cavalieri had a flame out. We saw lots of flame outs at this race for sure. I don't know if it was similar problems to Kevin and CJ or what. And we'll get into that later on.
This would only be the start of the engine problems for young CJ.
We had a ghost flame out. But he's doing so good, and I hate to see him lose it because of stuff like that. He seems to be pretty much fine with it. So, you know, I mean, that's one good thing about that kid. He's always happy. He'll get upset for.
So pretty early on, Gord told Kevin that the engine wasn't broken in. I think it was around this time period where he said that engine isn't broken in. Go see OS or go see Adam. And it took Kevin a long time to believe that. And we'll see later on what the outcome was.
Pretty clean run. Probably had maybe about a second worth of just not choosing the right lines overall, but got a 2 for the round, about a second behind Ty, which wasn't bad. So just gonna go up in diffs and maybe a rear spring change for tomorrow. Come back and see what the track's giving us. Choose a tire.
It's been said before that in order to win the world, 1,000 things need to go right, but only one thing needs to go wrong to lose it. That one thing at these Worlds could very well be choosing the wrong tire at the wrong time.
Yeah, because at the Vegas Worlds, the precursor to this one, or the prequel to this one, Ty went out on the fugitive lights because he just felt that he wasn't quite fast enough with the regular fugitives in the semifinals, and that was the mistake he made in 16. So I was obviously worried about the tire selection that he'd make at this one, but he seemed to be doing pretty good in practice because he was always right near the top, and in the first round he was having a pretty solid run. This is Matt Wallace. He's one of the engineers over at Proline, I think. He was the Daniel Adams at this race because Daniel, I'm not sure if he was just tired of traveling or if he was already started his transition towards the tool room, but he did not go to this event. We had we had Matt. Sorry, text message.
Maybe in the future.
Oh, so one of the pieces of drama around here, like a lot of people threw Bruno under the bus. So he doesn't actually, at this time, he did not have a 8-scale tire sponsor.
Sponsor tire. He's been with his girlfriend for 9 years and still hasn't married her.
So Gord's convinced that Bruno has commitment issues. That's why he has no tire sponsor. But again, he had no tire sponsor, so he could run anything he wanted. And at this race, he was running Proline. And I'm not sure if he's asked his girl to marry him yet, but I think now he does have an 8-scale tire sponsor. So I don't know, maybe Bruno, you hitched yet or what?
Could be a little better, but the tires were the right choice, and finally got a good track. So I think we can make changes to the car tomorrow, and go even faster hopefully. TQing is nice for sure, but mainly just get good points and make the best of the track conditions what you can, and get into the semis, and then at least.
Yeah, so at Worlds, the big thing is to get into the semifinals. It's not so much TQ. TQ is nice. It's bragging points. It gives you some extra swagger, some extra confidence, but you don't need to TQ these things. You just need to get into semifinals and at least get a decent starting spot in the semis.
Will the wet runs come back to haunt the young Canadian? The key will be not to squander opportunities on the dry tracks.
You don't want anything to happen on your good track, for sure. That's the one that's got to count.
While David and Ty...
Yeah, unlike most situations, it's drier is better on these tracks. Usually wetter is better, but not in RC racing.
But in addition to a mechanical failure, he struggled in traffic.
Oh, I just love that DJI Mavic. It's so good. That's just a beautiful shot. Of course, I was flying over the airfield, so I was probably pissing a whole bunch of people off. But
why do we do this?
And so every morning we had these interviews with me and Chris. This was he was my ride to the track again because I ruined my rental car.
If you hate this, you should not be doing this. If you hate this, you're even dumber.
There's another hyperlapse for my drone. So because there was so much qualifying, I just basically said, this is Groundhog Day. Because all 3 days of qualifying, the weather was the same, the track conditions were pretty much the same, so it was just kind of a repeat day after day.
Many drivers used to success are struggling.
So Boots he was kind of, I think he was on the outside looking in as far as the semifinals go. He was in the quarterfinals, and so was Joe Bornhorst. Ryan Lutz was in, I think he was in the 164s or the 118s, whatever it is. The ones, not the quarters, the ones before the quarters.
I was aggressively mediocre. Hey, I started out rough. Right out of the gate, I crashed, had to be marshaled. So then just kind of tried to salvage the run.
Davide Ongaro will be on a mission today, as there's really not anything more embarrassing.
So a couple questions on the chat. Maxwell Hatko, yes, there are some new productions in the works. Chris, no, I did not film this year's DNC. The restrictions for travel are just too stupid right now, so I didn't go. I'm Canadian, so going to the US is not super fun for us.
Very similar for both of the top heats.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to day 2 of qualifying here, starting off with round number 3.
So I think this day I think both heats were on pretty dry tracks. So the top drivers would basically not have any excuses whatsoever. And David was like the $6 million man. He was driving like crazy until he broke. And this would just be the start of his problems. Like, this was the day he might as well have just stayed at the hotel because it was not good for him.
With Ronald out, Coelho assumes the lead, and somehow he is together with Cavalieri again.
So will we have a repeat of the Bruno punt? I don't know. Apparently Bruno's pretty notorious for that, but this time Cav just kind of let him by. Cav might have lost half a tenth, or if that, maybe a few hundredths, and just let Bruno go, and then they basically got in solid runs.
Because everybody's going to the semifinal, and semifinal everything can happen. It really doesn't matter if you start second or fourth. I think most important now is to have confidence on the car and feel the car easy to drive.
Yeah, when the track is this fast, I mean, you need an easy to drive car, but it still has to be able to turn. So I'm glad I wasn't racing at this event, because setup would have been probably driving me crazy.
It was actually Ty who was the fastest man on the track.
So Ty doesn't always hero lap, but at these Worlds, frequently he was hero lapping, and in this qualifier, this was round 3, he not only hero lapped, but he TQ'd by a few seconds. So it's pretty cool. You know, again, family friend of the Testament, so anytime they do good, I'm pretty stoked.
It was anything but.
Just a little bit.
Oh, well, even then, even though he had a good run, he was still, like, he said the car was really hard to drive, and like he just said to Matt, he was just holding on for dear life. And so this was his first TQ interview with Chris, and here we have the FRS crew, front row screens doing the interview.
Try more stuff for the next one and have a little bit more relaxed rest of qualifying. But having 2 TQs is awesome. It would have been better to have 3, but I'm happy with how it's going so far.
While he did suffer a DNF in the first round, Robert Battier has a 4th and a 5th now, and his buggy looks to be...
So Robert is always there. He's always in the hunt. A lot of people will always pick him. If he's in the final, they'll almost always pick him. I think every time I've asked JQ who his pick is right before the mains or right before the semis, he always picks Battier.
Clearly, the X-Ray team is on the right path at this point.
We have like 4 cars in the top 10. That is very good. It's Taylor, CJ, Ty, and me. We are following more or less all the same setup. That is good, you know. No one is making a setup for each one, you know. So it means the car is really working good. So yeah, looking good. It's good to make a good position now. So to stay on the top 10, I think is very good, because everybody's going to the semifinal, and semifinal everything can happen. It really doesn't matter if you start second or fourth. I think most important now is to have confidence on the car and feel the car easy to drive.
Team Mugen had their drivers spread out quite a bit. In round 3, Juan Carlos Canas was just behind the X-Ray duo of Tessman and Coelho.
He empezado desde el principio, no sé,
Sam Mugen was having a pretty good run. Mayfield was doing okay. Mayfield's luck would kind of change once the temperatures climbed a bit.
To generate consistent runs at speed.
Second to last lap, I cased a double, spun out, or it could have been maybe 4th or 5th for the round. But the speed's good, car's good, engine, tires. It's just kind of picking the right tires at the right time because the track gets dusty so fast.
This is round 4. And again, it's I think the first round the watering was pretty good. They assumed that they would be sort of on a pretty dry track, but the crew did lay down a lot of water for this one. Holy crap.
Given that the sun is setting and the temperatures are dropping rapidly, it's very likely that all 3 of the top heats will have less.
This was also kind of the coolest evening.
It will be the same conditions for all 3 heats.
And what was good though was it was, like Mike just said, it was the same conditions for all 3 heats. So even though they did lay down quite a bit of water, which they had to keep the track together, I'm not trying to badmouth anybody on the watering crew here at all. They had to do it. But what was cool is how the water did kind of stay around for all 3 heats. So it was really even.
The track was so grippy at night like this. It was insane. You could run the hardest tire ever. And now we go into qualifiers and they do the same crap, water the track, and it was like the most ice skating rink car everybody was. You couldn't jump the jumps. Like, it was insane. So I don't know, man. This whole watering at the Worlds is a fail, but they feel like they need to do it to keep the track together.
So the last time Ryan complained this much, he ended up winning 2 Worlds. So we'll see if he pulls this one off.
That's for sure.
But it was the reason it was slipperier this evening than on the practice nights is because the temperature was pretty low. I think it was maybe 10, 12 Celsius that night. It was pretty cold, or 50 something Fahrenheit.
Both Ryan and Joe need to turn their qualifying efforts around, as does Ronafalk.
So Ronafalk broke again, or flamed out. Sorry, he flamed out that time, I believe. I think a rock got stuck in the flywheel, if I recall.
CJ Jelen, who has already suffered 1 flameout in this qualifier already, seems to be in a rhythm of sorts.
Yeah, and he flamed out again. Gord was basically telling him that engine isn't broken in. And yeah, I don't know if they had Adam look at it at this point. I think the next day we'll see what happens the next day. I think they had OS lap it in or something.
Given his struggles in the first 3 rounds, it was a bit of a shock to see Cavalieri battling for the TQ spot.
Yeah, so Cav, he was doing pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, conditions obviously were.
I think he was with S-Works at this point, or was he still with Associated? I can't really tell what it is. Pretty sure it's Associated, but regardless, he was having a really good run. I think he ended up in the top 3 this time.
Definitely getting back into my pace, getting comfortable driving around the track. I mean, every time we're on the track, it's slightly different. I mean, we went from, the round 1 today with, a lot of grip where we're on a harder tire, and in that last round we were on a soft tire. So you definitely have to have everything ready to go.
After the final heat is run, it became clear who nailed their tire selections and setups and who did not.
Robert shaking his head. Clearly he didn't.
Would edge out Cav for his first TQ of the event. Boots has also turned his fortunes around.
Yeah, so Ongaro TQ'd. I think points-wise, Tessman still's ahead of him. I think Tessman was overall TQ points-wise here.
We ended up with a 6 and an 8 compared to yesterday's like 20-something.
Yeah, so Boots turned his day around, which is pretty cool. He was on blockades. Like I run blockades on our tracks, but our tracks are like way lower speed than this. I cannot believe that he was able to get around that track and not constantly traction roll with blockades, but it worked for him.
It's normal, they're quicker, but not as quick as we thought they were going to be. But it was good.
It was super wet. I expected something like the seeding round when it was later in the day, and it was super high grip. So we had my car all thick and ready for high grip, and tire choice for high grip, and it was definitely not that. It was probably the least grip and the wettest track I've had so far. But still get 6, and that's pretty okay, I think. My car, I know what it's like in the midday, and even early evening is fine. And the mains are going to be like midday soon sometimes. So I think we're pretty good for setup-wise and pretty confident still. Yeah, just kind of did what you did your best with what you had to do for tonight, and we'll go to get them tomorrow.
After 2 days of qualifying, Ty doesn't really have a lot to complain about. He is, after all, the overall TQ.
Yeah. So yeah, this Ronafalk, he ended up like 100 and something and 100 and something in the 2 runs. So yeah, the whole day was his drop. So he was under a lot of pressure for the next day to turn that around.
That's for sure my drop, because that's not even probably not even a top 20 run. But we all went up on our diffs, we went up on tires because we're like, oh, the grip's gonna be up. No, there was zero grip to be found out there. So, oh well, go to bed, drink some whiskey and a beer, figure it out tomorrow.
That'll be Coors for him.
Who's gonna win?
The best guy on the day.
I absolutely love these conversations. It made popping my tires on my rental car so worth it. So I'm going to answer a couple questions here. So Lance is saying, isn't this when Mayfield left Reds? Well, it's when Reds left Mayfield, more like it. Just stick around for the next half hour or so, and you'll get the full story. I'm going to do my best to not get sued again, or threaten to get sued.
To start off, just to kind of do that mental damage to the opposition, because then they get out front and they have quite a buffer, and even if they're doing donuts on slicks for the last 25 minutes, they've already got that advantage they can try and lock down. But then the other side, sometimes a little slower at the start, and keeping your nose clean is the key. But I think you put yourself in more of a position, you're at the mercy of other drivers and how wild they're going to get, whether you get caught up in other people's crashes or even your own crashes. It's hard to tell.
Wait for it.
So do you like dubstep?
I kind of do. I kind of do.
We do not.
That's for sure. Dubstep sucks. So again, keeping in with the Groundhog Day theme, this is the last day of qualifying. And same conditions, same temperature, same everything.
It's on the Sunday, right? So TQ is not important.
Said no one ever.
Yeah, so just keep note of what Pierre said, because later on, David was going for TQ. Because he had one in the first round. He TQ'd first round. So if he would have come out of this day with 2 TQs, he would have been overall. He would have been starting the semis from out front. So somebody's telling me that blockades are the go-to tire for MORBC, which is the model off-road buggy club of Perth or whatever city this actually is. I think it's Perth. So Boots selecting blockades, that was kind of the go-to tire. So everybody's frantically getting ready for the last day of qualifying.
Started here with day 3 of qualifying, the final 2 rounds for the Maxima 2018 IFMAR 1/8 scale Nitro Off-Road World.
I actually cheated on this shot. On the first day, I had Chris just announce each day of the qualifying all at once, just to get it done and over with, just so that I wouldn't have to miss it. So I don't usually cheat like that on shots. I like it being authentic, but I figured, you know what? It's just an announcement. It's fine. We can just do it all now.
Most of the people that will watch this film.
So the last run had a few.
So here I got to follow one of the local fast guys. He wanted to finish in the top 100, and in this field, like this dude's fast. Like, I mean, he didn't make his goal of finishing in the top 100, but Jared he's fast. He's really fast.
He knows he has no shot at winning. So why would he take a week off work to be here?
Just to enjoy it, just to enjoy the experience. Seeing all my mates racing with a whole bunch of them, so usually racing club racing down here or down at the Bayswater track for electric as well. Good to see all the pros going around the track, just seeing just how fast they can actually go. And it's good just seeing everyone with a smile on their face here enjoying the event.
So that's often the question I get is why do people like spend money to do this? But I think Jared pretty much summed it up. I mean, how many chances do guys like this get to actually compete at a Worlds event? I never will, because I don't think Canada will ever get one. Oh, and speaking of fast, this kid was pretty quick. He's the one who pasted me. I believe he hit me twice. I had a bruise on my shoulder and then one on my back. It hurt. The one on the back really hurt, and that's the one where I saved Boots' seating round. So you're welcome, Elliot.
172nd spot. He wasn't too happy about this, but his dad and his pit guy are there.
So Ty was Micah's pit guy the whole week.
Had the help of the Testmans and the generosity of time, and it's made the most out of the car. And
I thought that was pretty cool, because like Ty was obviously under a lot of pressure, because there's big contingency money up for grabs here. Like the winner usually gets, I think it's like 20 or 25,000 US for winning this. So there's definitely a lot of pressure, and for him to take the time to help Micah, I thought that was pretty awesome.
I was happy. Didn't get yelled at, so it was good.
Who's been yelling at you?
Who's been yelling at you?
I'm not gonna say.
My guess is Kevin.
Jay's engine problems continue. Gord comes to help tune the motor, but when he suggests it isn't broken in yet, Kevin disputes it as he broke it in meticulously on his own oil bath system.
We're just trying to find out what might be happening with CJ's motor and see if we can figure it out. Getting a second opinion from the best.
Who's that?
Adam Drake.
Why's he the best?
I think he's the best engine guy that I've ever talked to or met. So you're struggling, best thing I can suggest is find someone who knows more than you, humble yourself, and ask questions. Come and feel it and see if you think it's like you said.
Gord has Adam look at the engine, and a conclusion is formed.
It has too much compression. In my opinion, I mean, the engine's basically just brand new.
And this was the feedback that Gord was giving Kevin and CJ on day one of qualifying.
Doesn't want to seem to run right. I don't know. I don't know enough about it, so I'll let the guys do it.
I mean, I think everyone's different. For me, I mean, I like to come to the Worlds or any major race, nationals, anything like that, with an engine that I've raced at home.
Yeah, so I think Kevin and CJ, they came with it. It was pretty fresh. Like Kevin does the EBIS break-in, and I think he just did the oil bath break-in. Probably ran it a little bit, but Adam, like I said, Adam likes coming to a race like this with an engine that has 2 or 3 gallons on it. Yeah, I wouldn't want to go to a big race with a brand new motor for sure. And what Techno did is they actually came with a whole new car. So they were trying to figure out the car. I don't know how much time they had on it. Like it was super new. Like it was all prototype stuff. They didn't let me film it or anything.
18 for sure.
So it took him a while. Like by day 3, Joe had kind of turned things around. I think he got an 18. So he was in the quarters for sure. But he wouldn't make it into the semifinals after qualifying. He would have to bump his way in the quarters. And I don't know where Lutz was. He was behind Joe still.
At a 10:30 pace, so it was pretty good for like 10:15. And then went off of one same double that's been biting me all week. This freaking fly.
Flies again.
And
it's like the story of the Worlds is just flies everywhere, flies.
And it was on the last lap. And I don't know what I got, but it wasn't what I was going to get.
On the opposite end of the spectrum, Kyosho is still running the now antiquated MP9 platform. They do have 3 drivers in the top 20, however, including Elliot Boots, who has overcome a lot to make it as high as he is in the standings. With temperatures on the rise, both
so for this last day of qualifying, the temperatures were pretty high. I mean, not high to American standards. Like I think it was maybe 32-ish, 33 Celsius. So that's maybe like upper 80s. But what was interesting is both Mayfield and Boots in the first round of qualifying had flameouts.
David's dad Pierre said that they don't really care about TQ.
Yeah, so here's David. He was just driving the wheels off his car.
With 2 drops to his credit, this was a huge risk.
So if he would have broken that car, he would have been the 128s. Like, he would not have made the quarters. There's just no way he would have made the quarters.
With both Ryan and Elliott suffering flameouts, we cannot help but wonder.
And here's where the drama starts.
It was going good, but I had 2 flameouts. It sucked. Don't know why.
With the high temperatures having an effect on their Reds motors.
And that was the question. Was there something? Was there a carb issue? Was there something wrong? So Boots changed everything on his motor. New carb, new fuel line, new tank, everything.
I mean, it was going good. I think I was running like second in the heat. So it would have been like a second, maybe.
So Mayfield took a different approach.
Which would have been really nice. So, yeah.
He didn't change anything.
I don't think it's going to matter. But
So this is an interesting shot. So I knew they were talking about what they were planning on doing. So I was actually facing the other direction. No, it was not wrong glow plug, Nathan. Just hold on. So I was actually facing the other direction. But what they're talking about here is Adam and Jason Rona had decided to confront the Reds guys, and they were going to tell them, not ask, but tell them that they were going to run an OS for the final, for the rest of the event.
I know he's going to just say, oh, the idle was low, but then why didn't they...
Ryan is one of Mugen's best hopes at winning this thing, and his chances of making it out of the semis were dropping.
Yeah, they did get pissy. Now, for this shot here, you can see a stack of tires there. I actually had my remote mic pointed right at this conversation. So this conversation is completely recorded. And what was said, like I chose the wrong words. I said that Reds gave Ryan their blessing. I don't think that's what they actually said. They just gave him permission to run an OS. That's what that conversation was about.
To start the semifinals.
So yes, from this point onwards, Ryan was not running a Reds. He was running an OS engine. More on that later.
While the watering is consistent, the track is still the villain of our story. Out front, Ongaro and Tessman are battling hard for the lead.
So yeah, for this round, this is round 5. This was, I think it was Ongaro, Tessman duking it out.
Of drivers that need strong finishes to make Saturday a bit easier for them, and on their equipment.
Or sorry, I think this is round 6.
I'm going to be starting first in the quarter today, so yeah, I mean, it's not the ideal position, but I've been there before.
Start very good and finish not so good.
Up and down. We had a fairly okay run then. At the minute we're lying 9th, so it means I can drop a 32 from the first day. So yeah, hopefully I should be in the semis. It's not nice being in that position.
CJ finally has his motor fully broken in, and he looks much more confident on the track.
He's done way better than I expected us to do, so that's being in a semi is huge. At Worlds at 14.
Yeah, so CJ, even though he was having engine problems, he still managed to somehow squeeze into the semifinals.
Car to the edge, but not beyond it, puts in a strong final qualifier. The disaster of day 2 is now behind him, and his chance to defend his title will start in the semis.
So his gamble to push paid off. High risk, but he made it into the semis.
But he has modest expectations still.
I think in the final is good, and maybe the podium is good also.
This is what I love about Davide. He's so humble. Like he's lights out one of the fastest drivers in the world, and he just wants to make it into the final and maybe podium.
Like any other car on the track, he would finish second, securing overall TQ for the event. Unlike the Nationals, he will still have to run the semis to qualify into the main.
No, for sure it's good to TQ. Even though I didn't do the last round, still it's a good feeling to top qualify. Hopefully we can keep it going towards the finals.
Racing's different than qualifying for sure. So Ty's always been known as a racer, not a qualifier. So we'll take it one step at a time.
Does the poor tire selection from the Vegas Worlds still haunt?
Yeah, and tire selection would come into play again. It's why I've said over and over. I wish some of these major events would be a spec tire, because it would be nice to just see who's the best driver. Like, forget about the best tire selector guy. Who's the best driver? Who's the best at setup? That would be cool to see.
The semifinals.
What's it going to take for somebody to win this thing?
No crashes.
because right now that seems very difficult.
Yep.
With the track getting worse and worse in condition, we've got a step down that's claimed a lot of good runs.
Yeah, and you'll see the step down here shortly.
Strategy probably will play.
So this day is all the lower semifinals. So it's kind of a day off for the pros. So we didn't see a whole bunch of them there. Some came to wrench. I know the Testmans were there to help the B team guys like Micah and Martin Bayer and stuff.
Harder tires on.
Oops, did I just call Martin Bayer a B team guy? Yikes, that's not what I meant.
So some things could shift, but for sure less crashing. An easy car for 60 minutes.
Davide, in the last round of qualifying, had exactly that. An easy, fast car to drive. But the question everyone has on their minds, can Davide go fast on harder tires?
So Davide was qualifying on super softs, I believe. Super soft longwear.
And, we've seen when he's been on the harder tires, it's not as good as for him. He's making mistake, the car is sliding. So, it's all going to change tomorrow. Track's going to be a little bit different. So we'll see which driver can adapt to that the best and, make the setup. Maybe we would have to change some things to make it feel as good as he's done so far in qualifying. But, we'll have to wait and see for tomorrow.
So this is now the semifinals or the finals. But like Mike just said, it is literally just more qualifying. Like from the time we hit the track on Monday or whatever, it's basically qualifying. So seating practice is qualifying, qualifying's qualifying, and semifinals is just more qualifying.
Are on the top of their game, snapping thousands
So there's
of photos from
Owen.
respective RC news
The photo I used to advertise this live broadcast was actually the picture he just took at that moment.
to shoot at these worlds.
And there's no shortage of stuff to shoot. I mean, those pants that Tebow and Zach are wearing were just epic. Just trying to keep the volume low here because I'm not licensed for this song in this broadcast.
2018 IFMAR Worlds, up to the 1/8 finals will be run today.
So we would run up to the 1/8 finals. So that would leave the quarters and the semifinals for the next day.
Probably 827 crashes.
So it was a lot of laps were run on this track. I think it was like 8,000 laps or something were run on the track this day. So it would definitely be kind of bombed out.
Many of the pros take this
Well,
opportunity
this is good.
to take a much-needed morning and in some cases, a day
Look at
off.
that. People are so mean to poor JQ. Oops, did I just say poor JQ? No, he deserved that.
Ty is one of the few pros here.
To wrench in my car and help out the team guys.
His main focus this morning will be to help young Micah Thompson in his.
And this was, again, I said it a few minutes ago, this is super cool that the Testmans help those two. I just, like, hats off to you guys. That was awesome.
Tops up his car. It's nearly go time.
Yeah, it was a bit of a mean trick there. Rizad, the RC vlogger thing, whatever. But it's JQ. He deserves it.
Micah, stuck deep in traffic, has broken a shock mount.
So Micah had a really rough start. I think he broke a shock standoff on the first lap. So Ty was assessing, and then he did the mad dash to the pits to try to fix it. And it's not like they were trying to get him to bump out of whichever heat he was in. They just want him to race, because the poor kid, he's pretty bummed out. And the kid was really hard on himself. It was kind of rough to see, but he put a lot of pressure on himself. He just wanted to do pretty good, but.
I think he's driving good. His car looks good now. So it's actually had some bad luck, but he's definitely driving awesome.
Micah's dad watches his son's worlds gradually coming to a close. Micah will be disappointed with 183rd. He will likely remember his pit man forever. It was amazing to see Ty take the time out of his schedule at an event of this magnitude.
Yeah, exactly.
To help young Micah.
It's stuff like this that, because I believe it was Travis Amazkua that kind of did this same role for Ty when Ty was starting out, Travis and Adam. And I think it's super important for the pros to do stuff like this. I know a lot of them do this. This isn't specific to just Testman. A lot of them do this, and it's super critical that they still do this.
Yeah, Adam Drake for sure. He was one of the best guys to me. Travis Amazkua also. They were.
Guns RC, thanks for the feedback. I'm not the most camera savvy person on this side of the lens. I like being on the other side of the lens, but these are kind of fun to do, so you're welcome.
Spent more time helping watering the track than he did racing on it. Didn't quite meet his goal of finishing in the top 100. Jared's 10 days at the track would see him compete in the 128th final, finishing in the 119th position.
Unfortunately, had a tyre come unglued in the first couple of laps, so a bit of a disaster.
Simple green and the flashpoint glue. That's the secret to tires never coming off.
Put on a really good show. Track held up really well. Facilities were great. Canteen was awesome. I think everyone's going to have a little break for a little while, to be honest. Everyone's pretty raced out.
Yeah, so the longest race I ever did was Nitro Challenge, and after that one, I run 2 classes, 40 plus, and then intermediate buggy. I'm tired enough as is. I can't imagine what it's like being at a race for 10 days. It's insane.
Showing signs of completion. Tomorrow will be the final day of these Worlds, and there likely isn't anyone that won't welcome the end. Day 10. The last
day.
Day
10. This is the last
and
day.
The first thing the pros do upon arriving
on
Saturday
I agree,
morning
Rizad, the RC vlogger. 119th, like that's good. I mean, Jared's fast. He's fast. Like he's faster than probably most of the people watching this broadcast or people who watch this after the fact. He's super fast.
A bit of a kicker all week.
So the first thing that the pros did was they went to the step down because they knew that was where there would be wear showing, and they were right. There was a huge hole right in the middle of the thing. So you either had to take that step down tight or wide.
Just off right side of middle, I think it'll be okay. If you hit it on the inside or the outside, it'll be fine. You just have to be kind of patient there and take your time to hit the right line.
In round 6, Ungaro really looked like the driver to beat. But he has been running super soft tires all week. With longer runs, that compound is off the table.
Or is it?
I mean, I don't think anybody's proven themselves to be somebody that's just going to dominate the hour-long race. Ungaro seems to be really fast, but, it's an hour, so he drives pretty committed, and usually driving committed gets you bit, by crashing a couple times at least. So I paced him a little bit in that last qualifier and kind of saw where my car was lacking, so made a few changes. The Testmans are always going to be consistent. Obviously, Ron Falk and is going to be good as well. And then there's probably a few, outliers that have definitely picked up the pace, like Spencer Rifkin and, maybe a few other guys. So, yeah, it's going to be tough. I mean, just the semi, it's going to be tough just to make the main. And then once you get there, you just got to try to survive. And, I mean, hell, in an hour, you don't know what the heck's going to happen out there. The track's pretty crazy.
So this was in a morning interview, and the flies are absolutely relentless. Like, I don't know how many were on us. There was probably 50 on my back. Just terrible.
More than a few of the top drivers are running a lot sooner than they would have liked this Saturday morning.
Yeah, so this is the quarterfinals. So we saw quite a few big name drivers, like Techno's Top Guns were there. McBride was in there.
Time is running out.
So these guys are definitely under a lot of pressure to get out of the quarterfinals and into the semis.
Last chance. An early mistake by McBride.
Yes, Justin. This is the director's commentary of the Perth Worlds from 2018.
Being 7th on only the 3rd lap isn't a huge problem yet.
So early on, I think Bornhorst had the bump spot.
He is in control of this quarterfinal.
Actually, he was out front with, I think Cole Ogden was behind him, and Burton from Kyosho, from Team Kyosho, I think.
After pit stops, Joe finds himself in the middle of that very pack.
So Joe didn't have the best pit stop, and he came out kind of in the middle. It's kind of not where you want to be.
Had good pace in the beginning, and then
now, I'm not sure what happened because the sun sort of went away, and I'm not sure if the track changed and it went away from Joe, but he failed to get out of the quarters, and he was pretty bummed.
And watch the fast guys go.
Not only are the Worlds over for Joe, but for Techno as well.
Yeah, so Lutz didn't make it either.
Did not sit well with Lutz.
And Lutz said stuff that he probably shouldn't have said to some of the people over at Techno, and my understanding is they chose not to renew his contract. And that's why he left Techno. So Lance is asking, why do the pros wear snowboarding goggles? Because it's really windy and their eyes dry out. And plus there's flies everywhere, and they didn't want flies crawling over their face. It's not everybody, like Mayfield, Cavalieri, guys like that. They tend to just wear sunglasses, but Bornhorst and Lutz, more often than not, they wear ski goggles. And here we are, Adam. He just ran out of fuel literally on the last lap. He was just pushing. He tried to do 10-minute runs because he really needed to get out of the quarters, and he just made a gamble. It didn't pay off.
This adds a huge unknown.
So this is the first time we had rain at these Worlds, and this was during the A-Main warm-up, and it was curious. Like I was interested to see what would happen to the track.
With barely an hour to figure out any setup changes, it's a race against the clock and possibly the weather.
So now this is one of the groups of the semifinals. I think this is the odd group.
Talented 8-scale drivers that RC has ever seen.
So this was cool because we saw Tessman and Ongaro in the same semi. So that was awesome.
And Davide have ended up in the same semifinal. Could this end up being a preview of the hour-long main? Bruno, reigning European champion, is having an amazing run. It did start out a bit slow for him, but that's to be expected when starting mid-pack. At the halfway point, he is in a transfer position and is closing in on the leaders.
So it started out with Tessman out front for a bit, and then Ongaro ended up taking on over the lead. But this track was pretty unpredictable.
But all that is needed to erode a lead.
Yeah, there you can get a good glimpse of the hole in the step down. And Davide, he was sort of struggling on this one section of the track. Like him and Tessman were pretty even everywhere else, except for that after that step down, he started having a few troubles there. Yeah, and there Davide, he flat out hit the hole, and that's what happens when you hit that hole.
Capitalizes on an error and reassumes the lead. Ongaro is right there when Tessman makes.
So Tessman made a boo-boo. I didn't get the boo-boo because I was relocating into my scissor lift that I rented. So I'm not sure where Tessman made the boo-boo, but he made a little oopsie, and Ongaro's back up front.
The pits and gained some ground on Davide.
So pretty solid stop from the Tessmans, but Davide stayed out.
Pressure is on the Ongaro pit machine to step up.
And then he does that.
Huge mistake in the pits.
And you just saw at the bottom of the frame, you saw Tessman go whizzing by.
From here, Ty just managed.
And I think Ty held on to the lead for the rest of it.
But he and Gord are not happy with their car.
We need a different tire choice, and we need a different setup on our car. So I think we're okay if we can get those two done. I think we got it.
So for the semis, I believe that the Tessmans were on an S. I can't remember what they were on. It was softer than what they decided to go with for the final. So that's kind of an important piece of information. Because Davide was still on super softs in that semi, and I believe his tires were pretty much balding after the semi, which was only a half-hour race. So now this is the even group, and we saw Rona Falk and Mayfield. Well, Mayfield just said, I'm out of here. He just pinned it right off the start, and he took the lead pretty early on. I don't know if it holds. Let's find out.
For his first pit stop, and gives Rona Falk the lead.
So here we see Rona Falk out front.
It doesn't take long, and Ryan is back up front.
And Ryan's back up front.
Takes it back a handful of laps later, and he would lead the bulk of the race. In the end, David's lead would not last. Ryan Mayfield would be the winner of the even semifinal. In his wake, a slew of disappointed drivers.
So Ryan would start out on pole with, I think, Rona Falk in 2 and Tessman in 3. and unfortunately, Bruno had a flame out, an FX engine flame out.
So it was very weird. And second time, also the third time, started refueling again, stopped at 650.
Seems to be a lot of issues with flameouts at this race. Within the top tier drivers, like I've never seen so many of the top drivers, like even Cavalieri, he had a flameout. It's really surprising.
This year.
So CJ was on the outside looking in. CJ failed to qualify for the finals, but what was really cool is I've seen this done at other races, like at the Neo race. They have what's called a last chance saloon. It's also known as a last chance qualifier, LCQ. Basically, I think it was a 15-minute race, and there was one person that would basically make it out of this LCQ, and they would bump into the main final. So it was a last chance to get into the final. I thought this was really cool. IFMAR isn't really known for, being flexible and changing stuff, and so for them to do this, I thought was pretty awesome.
From the pack.
So it was Elliott Boots and CJ Jellin. They basically gapped out the field, and they were going for it. Unfortunately, Elliott this is basically closing minutes. He basically fell apart.
CJ cruises to an easy win. At 14 years old, he will be the youngest competitor on the grid for the hour-long main final.
Incidentally, Ty's first Worlds, he was also 14. So, be interesting to see if CJ's career mirrors Tessman's at all.
Missed out on the last bump. I was chasing. I don't know the guy who it was, but yeah, I just missed out on the last lap.
It was CJ.
I finally found a good setup in the last run, of course. The car was pretty good then, but yeah, too late. Next time.
Thanks, Boots.
All right. Cheers.
So that was Boots' exit to the Worlds.
One of Europe's fastest drivers.
I'm pretty sure he just left his buggy there. He was pretty disappointed with everything.
Run about. I'm going to go with someone most people don't say. I'm going to say Robert wins.
See?
Robert, but yeah, picks the
JQ,
right.
he always picks Robert. It's third Worlds in a row where I interviewed him like this and he picked Robert.
He'll drive past everyone and win.
I go to Vegas, I don't bet. I'm here in Australia, I don't bet.
Chicken.
Got to stick with Ryan. Got to stick with my boy. He's been looking good. Looked good all week. Looked real good in the semi. Starting on pole. Can't go against that, I don't think.
Incidentally, I don't think anybody's ever won this race from the pole.
David.
In this group, that's a tough call.
I don't know, man. It's super close at the top. It could be anyone's race between Ongaro, Ronefeld, Mayfield, Testman, the usual suspects. But I mean, you never know. Someone might run up through the ranks. 60-minute race. It's going to be long. It's going to be a grind. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Watching the semis, Mayfield looked the most solid. I talked to Ty, and he said he wasn't happy with his tire choice.
So both Ty and Mayfield would go with a harder tire. I think Ty was on the S3s. Mayfield, I'm not sure what. He might have been on the R2 or something. I can't remember.
Cheers.
And Owen doesn't care.
Hara, Tessman, Mayfield. While the list of IFMAR pole setters over the past several events does have some champions in it, a pole setter hasn't won the Worlds ever. From a pure speed perspective, Ongaro has the advantage, but now that he is on a medium compound, would his speed remain?
So that was incorrect. He was not on a. I don't think he was on medium. I think he was still on soft longwear.
Heavier diffs, harder tires. Both he and Mayfield are running a harder compound than the young Italian Ongaro.
I suppose the point is that Mayfield and Tessman were running harder tires than Davide.
Ty and Davide.
So we'll see how that plays out. Yeah, so it looks like Ty's in P2. He was not P3. I misspoke earlier. He was in P2 with Mayfield in P1. Oh no, he is P3. Sorry. So it's Mayfield, Ronefalk, Tessman. So this is the hour-long main final. And for the first 3 laps, I was yelling at the guys in the FRS pit trailer because they were not going to let me up on the driver's stand for the winning moment. So I had lent FRS or given FRS an aerial shot earlier in the week that they were able to use in their broadcast. So I ended up saying, look, either you let me on the driver's stand or I'll issue a takedown notice on my shot that I donated to you, and all your YouTube videos will come down. My extortion worked, and they told me as long as I stayed out of their camera guy's way, that I could go on the driver's stand. But none of the other media was allowed up there. This is not normal. Like, Live RC loves having lots of media on the driver's stand for the winning moment, but FRS, they want nothing to do with it. They were running the show. So it was kind of frustrating. I had to spend the first 5 minutes of this race yelling at the producer, but I ended up getting on the driver's stand, getting the winning moment shot that I needed, so it's all good. Back to the race. Davide and Mayfield were kind of pulling away a little bit from Tessman. It was still Mayfield out front, but Davide just looked a wee bit... His car looked easier to drive. Mayfield and Tessman's car both had a little bit of a wiggle to it. But it comes down to that hole there that Davide struggled with in the semis. Would he figure it out? But here you can see in one lap, he basically closed up about a second on Mayfield in one lap.
In just one lap, the Italian has chopped a second out of Ryan's lead. Behind the lead battle, Cav is still in third, but it doesn't last. Tessman takes over the final podium spot and sets his sights on his rival, Mayfield.
Well, I think I meant sets his sights on Ungaro because Ungaro's in P2.
Retain his title. Lap after lap, he loses touch.
So David Ronefalk, he had some issues right at the start. So I was telling my FRS front row screens or front row douchebags, whatever you want to call them. I was telling that story, but he basically crashed pretty early on, and he was sort of out of it real early on. But he selected a harder tire, and he just felt it wasn't very good. He was squirrely. He was all over the place.
Got all the way up, almost to the lead, and then fell back a little bit. But today was obviously a solid day. Racing, I feel like, is definitely something I am a lot better at than the qualifying, obviously, because that wasn't.
So Cavalieri was totally ripping drunk here. He was not in any way sober.
Started off a little bit better.
And the thing about Cavalieri, he's so nice when he's drunk.
Cav, Ronefalk, and Mayfield all made similar tire decisions. With 2 of those drivers falling off the pace, would Mayfield be next?
So there we saw, I think Davide. Oh, sorry, Davide did pass Mayfield briefly, but he came in for a much better pit stop. And I think once the pit cycles ended, Davide was out front.
Dominated the karting event a week ago. Jared has failed to string any kind of success together at these Worlds.
Yeah, so Jared's big win was the go-karts. He was kind of super mediocre the whole week, and I think he said he made a poor tire selection. But what's interesting, I believe he was on the same tires as Ungaro.
And wasted an hour out on the track, so pretty big bummer, but it's part of racing.
One spot behind Jared was McBride, having transferred all the way up to the final from the quarters. He isn't having the final he had hoped for either, and would finish in the 9th spot. A disappointment, to be sure.
Yeah, so McBride was hoping for better, given it was kind of, home country worlds.
McBride is the youngest member of the finalist group, CJ Jellin.
So here's CJ, his first. I think it's his first Nitro Worlds at 14, so that's impressive.
And the end result was a few too many crashes. He would finish down in the 12th spot.
I mean, 12th in the world at 14, that's respectable. Tessman was, I think, at his first Worlds, he was 7th at the same age. That was in Charlotte at the Farm 2.
Well, it's pretty good.
And yeah, Guns RC, I agree. Hara's glory days were awesome. First, second, and third at his first at 3 consecutive 8-scale worlds. And to say nothing about his 12-scale and on-road stuff. The guy's again, if there's an RC Hall of Fame, he's in it. Anyways, back to the race. It looks like Mayfield is still ahead of Ungaro, but just barely hanging on. And there you can see Tessman just coming into frame, so he's about 3 or 4 corners behind.
Is Tessman, but he is struggling to match the pace of the leader.
Now this, I think, is about at the 15-minute mark. And here we'll start to see some tire issues come into play.
You kind of just, it was just really hard to drive the whole time.
Ryan's tire choice has finally caught up to him.
So you can see Ryan's car is getting really, really hard to drive.
In just the main event.
Tessman takes advantage and assumes second place, but his tire selection is only marginally
So Ty's tire selection was definitely better than Mayfield's, but I mean Ongaro just nailed it with the super soft. But what Ongaro was doing is, I think for 90 minutes or 2 hours leading up to the final, somebody from the Ongaro camp was temping the track. They were going out with their little temp gun and they were seeing what the track was doing. And I think that's what made the difference. They just kind of knew that the track wasn't going to be high grip like it was for the semis. And they nailed the tire selection. They nailed it.
Had the bulk of their tread intact, the V8's tires were significantly worn, and his fastest lap came towards the end of the race.
Yeah, his fast lap was, I think, like at the 50-minute mark, and at that point his tires are basically bald.
Davide, whose IFMAR story began in 2014 in his home country of Italy, has progressed quickly.
So that's Davide's mom there in the stands at the Messina Worlds.
Worlds in Vegas, he would finish just tenths behind Ronefald in the semifinals, earning a spot in the main event.
And this was Vegas. I believe he finished fourth in Vegas.
Finished fourth in those worlds.
Yeah, so Davide's, I mean, he's lights out. Like he's pretty fast. And so when I interviewed him where he wanted to finish, like just getting onto the podium, he was satisfied with. Come on.
He's taken RC's top.
So there's the shot that I had to blackmail FRS to get. And that shot. And I yelled at their camera guy. And then the club guys were like mauling me. They were trying to kick me off the stand, and I was like, yeah, no, I'm staying. Screw you. Yeah, there's Davide's mom again. This is a pretty good win. His margin wasn't crazy. It was like 13 seconds.
Mayfield and Cal.
So it was actually a pretty close race with Tessman in 2 and Mayfield in 3.
Really no choice. After the semi, I didn't really have a choice on tires. I mean, it looked pretty worn out.
But before the Ongaro camp can officially celebrate IFMAR,
there was a little bit of drama again. I mean, it's IFMAR.
While not uncommon on the
so the rules are that the pit guy's not supposed to take the buggy away, and what caused all this was Cole Ogden saw, I believe it was Cole Ogden. If it's not, sorry, Cole, but somebody saw Mauro Ongaro start yanking wires out of Davide's car, and he left the pit lane with the car, which they're not supposed to do. They're supposed to put it right into tech. And so IFMAR decided at that point to do a full tech inspection, including a check for gyros.
But the fact that Davide's buggy wasn't turned immediately into tech solidified IFMAR's decision to perform full teardown.
Yeah, and again, like the internet went crazy. They said this was all the Tessmans. This had nothing to do with Tessmans. It had nothing to do with any of the guys in the top 3. This was people seeing Mauro yanking wires.
After everyone was satisfied,
but it didn't matter. They did a full fair tech inspection on the top 3, and no one was using a gyro. Everybody's engine was the right size. So Davide was crowned the champion.
He made a few mistakes early, and if he hadn't, it may have been a little different, but I'm sure everyone will say that. I mean, if you drove perfect, you win, like David Ongaro did. And he worked hard. He drove awesome, and it was definitely a well-deserved victory. So.
And this is Gord's stance on and off the camera.
Given that Ty Tessman has been on the podium for 4 worlds in a row, now averaging a second-place finish, neither Ty nor Gord were upset about losing these worlds. Clearly, they would have liked to have won, but Davide Ongaro and all future competitors will be hard-pressed to match that kind of consistency on the world stage.
There was no disappointment. I was way more disappointed.
Best Cav interview ever, and he's completely lit.
A lot more speed, and just with the outcome of everything. But you know what? We're gonna live to race another day. So yeah, I mean, I still love what I do. I'm happy with where I finished.
It was okay.
Yeah, Cav was so drunk. It was awesome.
Missing some speed in the final, so 6th position finally. At least
It's my 7th World Final.
Yeah, so seven Worlds Finals, 14 years. He's made the Worlds Final for 14 years. Like, that's impressive.
But for sure, if we come here, it's to win. So just a little bit sad because
David drove great. Had a couple of mistakes of my own. Could have eliminated that if I would have done a little better, but sometimes you're not fast enough.
Should have just selected a slightly softer tire, I think.
Semi.
But the problem with Proline is you when you selected softer tires, you had a twitchy car. A car would be catchy and flippy. With other brands, softer, the wiggle goes away.
Really good.
This would be the last time we would see CJ running X-Ray equipment. He would leave X-Ray in the off-season, citing a toxic environment as the culprit.
It was good. It was. I wish I could have finished a little better for my companies, but.
So Ryan gets on the plane. Oh, sorry. Let me back up. Ryan says bye to Reds, to the brother and the father. Everything's peachy keen. He gets off the airplane in Los Angeles, and his phone explodes. People tell him that he got fired, and that's how he found out he got fired. Was when he got off the plane. Reds fired him for running an OS.
No racing. Next week we go to school and all is like before, so we'll see.
Davide, he's such a great kid. He's talking about going to school the next week, and I actually asked him if his classmates will know anything about this. He's like, no, they won't care.
Evident here as drivers and members of competing teams lined up to give Davide a heartfelt and sincere congratulations on his win. After 10 days in Australia, we have had a new world champion, one of the youngest in 8-scale history.
Yeah, I think he was the youngest in 8-scale history because I think he was 17. Ronafalk was 18 or 19, and Tessman I think was 19.
Compound and set up decisions when it counted most, and it earned him a spot in RC history.
So Lance, no, X-Ray was not that toxic. It was just a power struggle. I think Kevin wanted to be the gourd. He wanted to be the person that everybody went to, and you can't have two roosters in the hen house. I think that's what it came down to. So I've never seen toxicity. But I'm biased because I'm friends with the Testmans, so what do I know? Just the camera guy.
Yeah, he's in shot.
There's a naked guy behind Joe.
Should we redo it? I don't want a naked guy in my shot. I think we should redo it.
Yeah, I think so. So Brazil in 2 years.
Brazil in 2 years. Yeah, I guess.
There's Lee Martin. He TQ'd pooping.
Hey, I'm pretty proud of you. You stood up for yourself. You were not going to move. How did it feel to be hated on?
So what Ryan's talking about is right while the A-Main guys were lined up at the bottom of the driver's stand, right before the final, their camera guy was like yelling at me, and I was like flipping him off, telling him, I'm not moving, and I was pretty stubborn. I was not going to move and get my shot ruined because I don't care if a camera guy's in my shot. Why did he care? I don't know. It was disappointing that I had so much drama with another media company because I've never had that. Live RC has always been really fun to work with. So it was just weird.
They're always sticking cameras in our faces. These worse than these ones.
So that is the 2018 IFMAR Worlds. That was a super fun race. It's one of my favorites for sure. The travel wasn't awesome, but the event itself was good. And for me, I stayed there a week after, and had a really good time. Just going on a walkabout. So yeah, it was pretty good. But no, back to the toxicity of X-Ray. I'm sure Gord is hard to take at times. He's pretty stubborn, and he's fairly he's a type A personality, as they say. But as far as toxicity, I don't know. I mean, they were always trying to help CJ, even when he was having all the engine problems. They were right there trying to help him. And toxic environment. But we'll see how it works out for CJ in the end. I think being under somebody like Gordon Ty, I think was a huge advantage for him, but we'll see. We'll see how it pans out for him. So yeah, this is again one of my favorite episodes. I thought it was fairly agnostic. Like I got to follow a lot of different drivers, not just the Proline guys. So I think there was a lot of really cool storylines. I think it was one of the best looking Come Drive With Us episodes. I learned a lot of tips and tricks over the years, and I think my craft was at its peak starting with this shoot. And it was just a really fun episode to watch and to work on and edit. This was a pretty long edit too. I think it was like a 4-month edit. I was actually writing a blog during the edit, so if you want to check that out, it's on 5150grafx.ca is my actual WordPress website. I think there's a blog there somewhere about this one. Nathan G, you're welcome for the productions. They're a lot of fun. I really do enjoy doing these. Yeah, RC Dirk, some do thrive in different environments, absolutely. The only problem with Kyosho is there's not a real mentor for CJ. There's not like the seasoned vet. So I think Kyosho, one of these off seasons, they're going to have to nab a seasoned veteran racer of some kind to kind of guide and mold the team. Let's just looking at so RC Dirk running an OS. Yes, it was pretty classic. I had to do a double take when I saw it in his car and when I captured a couple of the conversations. But yeah, I mean that 4-way chat between Drake, Rona, and the Rossies, it's all on film. Got all the audio. So but the thing about Come Drive With Us is it's a longer story, because in DNC you'll see that Reds does turn it around. Like Boots won Silver State. That's the very next one of the next major events, so they turn their engine program around. So if they were struggling at the Worlds, if it was some problem with the carb or whatever, they resolved it. So, I mean, patience. I just wanted them to be a little bit patient with the production, with the storytelling, because I've captured Proline struggles over the years, and they've never, I mean, obviously they'd rather I show their successes, but they've never told me, hey, don't show us struggling. They've never said that. And Proline has struggled. Lots of manufacturers do struggle. So the fact that they escalated it to the degree they did was kind of weird. But again, they do have to back their brand. That's what Nathan G said, and he's right. They absolutely should have fired Mayfield. But 3 Coors later, like I said in the if you watch the full video, you'll hear the quote. 3 Coors later, Mayfield didn't care. He didn't care because his engine program right now is really good. He's running the MX stuff and he's super happy. So. Oh, here's, I think this is Micah's dad. He's saying the Tessmans, Gordon Ty, are genuine behind the scenes. Mike and I will never forget. So I totally agree with that. That's awesome to hear. Micah's dad. I can't remember your first name. I apologize. Your Hunter King was playing VRC the whole time. That's awesome. I hate VRC. I'm sorry. RC Dirk next production is that's the icebreaker. Just trying to get it done. Just so demotivated. And then I've got the Worlds from Trent, and I've started kind of editing that one too. But yeah. So yes, Guns RC thoughts on Tessman missing the final. So apparently they had a clunk issue, and I mean, okay, look, let's back up. So Ty had a new engine program and a new tire program. And DNC it's like a widowmaker of an event. Like, it's so long. Days are so long. The conditions are all over the place. So I'm not sure how open the other hot race guys would have been to sharing tire information with them. Because the other hot race guy would have been Cole Ogden. And Ogden and the Tessmans, I'm not going to lie, they don't get along. They just don't get along. So I'm not sure if Cole would have been open to sharing any kind of tire information. And I mean, the temperatures during the day are decent, and then at night it just drops like a stone. So I know Ty was struggling with picking the right tire. It wasn't that the tires are no good, because hot race tires are really, really good. Adam told me, like, I was asking him a couple questions before he had decided on JC. What's hot race like? He's like, they're just really good everywhere. They're not the best, they're not the worst, but they're just really good everywhere. So I don't think it was anything to do with his actual equipment selections. It was purely just learning curve. As far as the flameouts, yeah, it sucks. It sounds like it was a clunk issue. It got stuck on the baffles and it pinched the line. It was. I think he said there was a fifth of the tank of fuel that he just couldn't get, and then it was also pinched off. So it was just bad luck. That's what it came down to, because his speed was there. If you look at his lap times, he was there. He was there with everybody. So it's not an equipment issue per se. It was just bad luck. So that's my thoughts on him missing the DNC. No, I didn't talk to him, but he posted basically what I just said. He posted that on his Facebook page. So I mean, he's had bad luck at DNC in the past. I remember the first year with X-Ray, what was that? His switch failed on Truggy, and then in Buggy his battery failed. So that was 2017. And then he had similar problems at the 2017 Roar Nationals. He was right there in Buggy, and then his battery failed. So bad luck happens. So RRLRC is saying, great capture here as always. What are the advantages of the one-man band approach to these productions? Could these shoots benefit from more hands? Oh, absolutely. I'd love to have more people filming with me. Totally would love to. It's just, the budgets don't allow for it. If this were motocross, I'd be getting $80,000 or $90,000 an episode, and then you can hire some people to do stuff, but the money's just not there for RC. I've tried it in the past to have more people helping me, and it's been great. For 2016, I had Robert Bauer, who is Proline's internal guy. He helped me a little bit with the pit lane stuff for the A main final, and then for Sick Cross, I had Matt Lance from Proline doing some of the track follow camera footage, and then so he did the driver stand footage, and then I was down below doing my thing, and that worked super awesome. So I would love to have more people with it, helping me with it. And then the other thing is the storylines. It's hard for me to keep up with the drama that's happening around the track. Like you never know what stories are happening in the pits. So it'd be nice to have somebody just kind of like, keeping an eye on the stories and telling me, hey, so-and-so's doing this or so-and-so's doing that. So obviously I'd love more people. Big Welding, lots of fours says, thanks, Cory, you rock. You're welcome. I love doing these. And then Big Welding 444444 also said he talked to Tessman, and he says my assessment is spot on. So yeah. I'm sure Tile turnaround. They always do. They've had struggles and bounced right back. So I don't think it's an equipment issue. I don't think there's anything wrong with FX motors. I don't think there's anything wrong with the Hot Race tires. So they'll turn it around. Hunter King says, got to get ready for the 2021 VRC Worlds. Okay, no problem. Have fun with that. Jeff Jasky says, big thanks to you guys for the hard work and consistently putting into productions. Mad, entertaining, and informative. You're welcome, Jeff. RC Dirk says his driving wasn't looking great. Good to hear some behind the scenes stuff. Awesome stuff. I'm assuming you mean at DNC. I don't know. I didn't see a whole lot of him. I don't know. The lap times were right there, so I don't know if his driving wasn't good. RC Dirk says you'll film, and I get the stories. You only need food and water. All right, well, go to Brazil. Go to Brazil and film, and then send me the footage because I don't want to go. So Jeff Jasky says watching has made him faster by hearing what the pros regularly mention and discuss. Over many productions, I get better insight on how they think, make decisions, what their priorities are, etc. That's true. Thanks for that feedback. That's one of the underlying themes that I've or one of the things I wanted to accomplish with the series is to just help everybody kind of learn how the pros approach races, what they do. If you ever get a chance to do one of the clinics that any of the pros put on, absolutely go for it. You can learn so much. I did my first 110 racing clinic in Kamloops, BC, British Columbia last summer. Learned tons about setup and how to just approach a race weekend, and it was really good. So if you can do one of the clinics, and I'm not saying like do a 110 racing clinic, multiple drivers put them on. Definitely try your best to attend one. Marcus Dirks RC says, thanks, Cory, for the nice WC movie. This was my best time in RC. Now, Marcus is from Germany, so he said that with a German accent. Yeah, thanks, Cory, for the nice World Championship. Yeah, nothing krieg, alles war gut. Yeah. Sorry. My friend Marcus always says that. He's German too. So, what's the future? Come drive with us, Rodney Jones. Well, the future is, it's on hold right now. I don't want to go to the United States. Because I think Mr. Biden, Sleepy Joe, Child Molester Joe, whatever they call him these days, I think I have to quarantine when I get there. And then when I come back, I have to quarantine here. And what they're doing, it's kind of communism over here, because they force us into these really sketchy hotels for the first 3 days until we get a negative test, I believe. And these are airport hotels, so they're not awesome. So we have to stay there at our own expense, and then we have to self-isolate at our houses for another 9 days on top of that, or 10 days on top of that, I think. So we're looking at like 3 weeks of isolation. Like, no thanks. I'm basically waiting for all this COVID BS to just be gone before kind of resuming filming in the United States. Now I'm going to do the Quebec Classic in August. That's obviously means no border travel for me, so I'm pretty comfortable with that. But as far as going to the US, no. As far as going to Brazil, no, not going to happen. There's stuff that I would rather do here, to be honest. I don't want to be traveling. I don't want to be away from my family and people I love for a month. Not going to happen. So until COVID is over, Come Drive With Us is kind of sticking to Canada. As far as Proline being involved, probably not. I've got a lot of sponsorship opportunities that are there for when it does resume, but I'm just patiently waiting for it to resume. It's not over. It might not be back this year. I'm thinking it'll probably be 22, but we'll see. We'll see. Let's see. Matthew Kessel says, my videos are awesome. You're welcome. I love doing them. And I'm glad that they got you through some tough times over the last year. It's tough being in isolation and being in lockdowns with not a lot to do. So yes, I've got new content coming, lots of new content. And yeah. But thanks for that feedback. I'm glad I helped you in some way, entertain you. That's my job. Entertain you, make the sport look awesome. Just this week, so I own a hobby store. It's called the RC Depot. I think it's right there. And just this week, one of my customers, he was apologizing for asking lots of stupid questions, and I'm like, there's no such thing as a stupid question when you're new. So I basically sent him a link to my video, and I said, hey, check out my video. It shows you what an awesome sport you're getting into. And he's like, dude, you're the 5150 guy? No way. So I thought that was pretty cool. I've always wanted, so this is from Craysorn. Sorry, my text is really small. It's from Craysorn. I'm not going to try your last name. I'm just going to butcher it. Any chance you would also cover on-road electric nitro racing? I would love to do on-road. I wanted so badly to do the last Reedy race at the Tamiya track, the Tamiya USA track. But for whatever reason, I couldn't convince Proline to do it, because they just feel that the on-road guys aren't as good a personality as the off-road guys. Like, there's no Mayfield, there's no Drunk Cavalieri, although I love Drunk Cavalieri. He's such a nice guy. They just never felt that the personalities were there. So I disagree. I think there's lots of great on-road personalities. I just never got the green light to do it. So now that I'm independent and or looking for ad hoc sponsorship or crowdsourcing, whatever I decide to do with Come Drive With Us, I would absolutely love to do something in the on-road space for sure. Because on-road it has a big following, and the racing's pretty exciting. I think it's a little bit closer than Nitro. There's more passing for sure, so I think it would be cool. Sean the Barber says, my content is awesome. That's what got him into 110 off-road buggy racing 3 years ago. You're welcome, Sean. That was actually exactly how I pitched Come Drive With Us to Todd Matson in 2014. Just to get new people into the sport. That was why we did this in the first place. Yeah, I think so. Back to the on-road stuff. Chrysoren says, I think the personality is not there just because there's no coverage. It's right. It's chicken and egg, cart before the horse, whatever you call it. If you don't cover it, you don't know the personality. So again, I don't know why Proline had no appetite to do the on-road stuff, but I certainly do. I would love to try it. Snowbirds is a great race in the US. Yeah, there's lots of cool stuff. Yeah, you're welcome, Sean the Barber. No problem. Just going through the comments here. So are there any other tidbits from Australia? I don't think so. I think I pretty much revealed everything. It was a good race. It was a good race. I was really happy to see Davide win it. He deserved it. And what's interesting, so Ty was quite upset after he finished third in Vegas, and I was sort of assuming he'd be pretty upset after being the runner-up here in Perth, but he wasn't. It was interesting because Gord said, well, look at how good we've done over the past X number of Worlds, and he's right. So the first one was 7th. That was in Charlotte, North Carolina in 2008. And then in 10 in Thailand, it was a little bit of an off one because I don't think he made the main final at that one. I think he was like 18th that one. But then comes back in 2012 in Argentina and finishes second. Wins it in 14 first, so 2-1. Finishes third in Vegas and finishes second here in Perth. So to me, that's impressive. I don't really care, Testament fan or not. That's impressive. Like, look at his average finish. It's like 2 point something. It's pretty good. So they were actually not overly disappointed to not win that one. So I was pleasantly surprised because I thought, these guys don't come here to finish second. They come here to win. And when they don't win, usually it's pretty upsetting. And it's not just the Testament, it's all of them. I think the most bummed out guy was Joe. He was really frustrated with his performance, not even making the semis. But Testament, I mean, his Worlds pedigree is, love him or hate him, you got to admit, it's impressive. So we'll see how Davide's career turns out, because he was cannot remember where he finished in Italy. I think he was in the 30th or so spot, but then 4th in Vegas, and then wins in Perth. So it's we'll see how he does in Brazil. Incidentally, I've been talking to Jeff Parker, who's the IFMAR president, and they still don't know if Brazil's happening. So I think the dates are towards the end of August. So I've got a really strong hunch that Brazil is going to not happen. I think it's either going to get, the Worlds are going to either get canceled or they're going to get moved to a country that's a little bit more open and it doesn't have as much COVID as Brazil. But I suspect it'll probably get canceled. But again, it's really early to call. Jeff had no clue. He had no clue what they're going to do yet. Marcus Dirks RC says, I hope for beer or wine in the next time with you, Cory. Okay, yeah, we'll do drinks. I don't know when that'll be. Probably be 22 sometime, because I don't foresee myself traveling this year. And Big Welding 444 is heading to the track this weekend. What track is your home track? Road trip. Yeah. I'm looking forward to getting some racing in. It's still winter outside here. Probably be winter for another 2 months. So we usually hit the track mid-May is when we get out there. So I'm looking forward to it. Probably going to stick with X-Ray for another year. But, there's always the Mugen. Maybe try a Losi. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I'm looking forward to getting some track time in. Most people in the chat's kind of dying down a little bit. Anyways, that was the Sydney Worlds. I hope you guys liked it. Oh, that's Barry. Oh, if I didn't know that was Barry, I would have made fun of you. Yeah, Big Welding. I should have known. Hi, Barry. Anyways, that was the IFMAR Worlds. I have one more director's commentary to do, and that is DNC 2, Part 2. The chat's kind of back. So Matthew Kessel is asked. Oh, sorry. Where was it? So, oh yeah, Guns RC is asking if the Worlds are going ahead. I just talked about it. I really don't think so. I really don't think so, because the original date was the end of August. I don't think the World's going to be back to normal by then. I won't be there. If the Worlds are happening in Brazil this year, I won't be there. And that really sucks because I hate missing Worlds, because there's so many stories to tell. I just don't want to not be there, but I'm not going to go. Not if it's this year. So, Guns RC, that's my response. So, Matthew Kessel says on a smooth track, low C is dominant. When the track gets rough, the Mugen is unstoppable. The XB8 is also one of RC's best kept secrets, to be honest. I know everybody has these, like, it's expensive. X-ray stuff is expensive. It really is. But that buggy is so good. I'm telling you, it's so good. So Matthew, but the thing about the low C though is like Dakota was pretty darn good at DNC, and that's never smooth. I mean, it was Thunder Alley, and Thunder Alley doesn't usually blow out, but his stuff looked pretty good there. I don't know. So anyways, was in the process of kind of signing out, but if something comes up on the chat, I'll definitely respond. As X-ray driver, his car is also, yeah. So Matthew Kessel is admitting that the X-ray is pretty good. So I'm not sponsored by X-ray. I actually have to pay for my stuff. So for me to say the X-ray is pretty lights out, it's an authentic opinion. But if I didn't run X-ray, I think I'd probably go back to Mugen. But I think I'm gonna do X-ray for another year. We'll see. Anything else on Australia? So yeah, it was the worst I was ever treated at an event. Definitely. Yeah, that's one thing I can talk about. It was the worst I was ever treated. I mean, the front row screens guys, they started out super nice. They were, yeah, and then they just went all crazy on by finals day. It was just nuts. Yeah, and it was just tough. And then the club guys were like right there, like yelling at me along with the FRS guys. So it was, the last day was not fun because like I mean, I want to get my shots. I want to make sure that I can get the shots to tell the most beautiful story I can and to make it as exciting as I can and look as awesome as I can. So when I get yelled at and told I can't go on the driver's stand, like nobody does that. The driver's stand is always open to the media. Like we're not up there during the race. You know, we're not up there sticking a camera beside the guys when there's still 5 or 10 minutes left, but we want to be there when the winner crosses the finish line or just after he crosses the finish line so we can get the winning moment. But front row screens, they copywrote the winning moment. They wanted exclusivity to the winning moment, and it just pissed me off. So yeah, I actually blackmailed them and yelled at the camera guy. And I don't like yelling at people at the track because I like being invisible, especially when I'm standing right beside the A heat, right when they're lined up, right before the hour-long final, and there's like a bunch of contingency money up for grabs. I don't like yelling at the camera guy and flipping their overweight camera guy off. So yeah, it was really disappointing that I had to go through that experience with FRS, but it is what it is. I'm sure I'll get some nasty email from somebody about this one, but I don't care. NFG. Big Welding 444. No, you will not see me on Saturday. I'm not going to drive 6 hours to Medicine Hat in the middle of winter. Screw that. You can come to Edmonton if you want to hang out. I don't know. All right, so that's pretty much it. I think the chat's kind of petered off. Sort of rambling now, I think. I tend to do that sometimes. Cool. Well, next week, like I started saying, is DNC2, and that'll be the last director's commentary until Icebreaker's done. So that one is a pretty good race. It's my second sequel. I don't do a lot of sequels. A lot of people ask me why I didn't go to DNC this year, just because of restrictions. If DNC stays at Thunder Alley, there will be a DNC 3. In fact, that might be my next episode. That'll probably be my first episode in 22, DNC 3. If it stays at Thunder Alley, which it probably will. So yeah, that'll be my first shoot in 22, I bet. But anyways, DNC2 next, probably not next week, the week after. I'll do the last director's commentary. So yeah, that's pretty much all I got. Anyways, oh, maybe not. No. Okay, cool. Anyways, I'll see you guys in a couple weeks and have fun.